Topic: Employee development. Subtopics: Understanding employee training and employee development. Approaches to employee development planning, meaning and process. The four main differences between training and development. Although they are often used together, there are important differences between training and development. So much so that knowing the particularities of each one could help to set priorities and strategies within your company's human resources department. These are the four differences that will help you to distinguish between these two concepts, and which you must always take into account when talking about training or development. First, short-term versus long-term. Some human resource experts explain the differences between training and development very simply. The first thinks about the present and the second about the future. In general, training faces an immediate challenge and teaches the knowledge or skills needed by company employees in a short period of time, 1 day, 1 week, several months. It is all about here and now. It could be a course to improve the communication skills of employees, a conference to explain the protocol for returning a product, or a class to use the Excel program. On the other hand, development focuses on the long term. Human resource managers propose a strategy to put in place over several months or years, comprising a set of initiatives that are expected to bear fruit over a long period of time. It is a continuous process in which you are trying to develop professionals in their next step or their next position of responsibility. Second, job position versus professional career. Due to its precision and commitment to the short term, training is designed for a specific job position. It seeks to provide professionals with tools and skills, taking into account the work that they will be doing at the company. However, development focuses on the person. Its objective is to get the best out of each professional in the company, identifying their interests and the fields in which they can more easily progress. If training focuses on a job position, development puts the emphasis on building a successful professional career. Third, specific objectives versus open objectives. In training, the objectives are specific and well-defined: learning how to use a program, obtaining a certain personal skill, or teaching the new protocols put in place by the company. When we talk about development, however, the objectives are always much broader and can cover all types of knowledge and skills. Compared to training, development is less tangible and often focuses on philosophical issues, changing habits and improving skills. Not only that, but objectives can be changed over time and completed according to the new demands of the market or the company. Fourth, group versus individual. Training tends to be an initiative designed by a company and taught by a tutor or expert. The company pays for the expenses and organizes the courses, decides what sort of tools its employees should use, and sets the guidelines to follow in all the training activities. These initiatives are often taught in a group, a department, people who have recently joined the company, etc. However, with development, the emphasis is put on the individual. Development programs are often personalized, and the person who is ultimately responsible is the employee. In this case, the most important focus is not on lessons taught by a tutor, but rather on the self-learning process and progress that must be taken on by the professional. Guidelines for effective employee development. Successful employers integrate development and succession planning programs into the organization's overall strategy, ensuring all programs drive toward the same set of objectives. These guidelines can help HR plan employee development programs. First, gain executive support. If executives do not understand or agree with how development fits into workforce planning, a succession process or retention program, HR will have real problems obtaining funding and support from the top. Second, involve management. If executives show support, there is a good chance that management will pay attention to employee development. Managers play a vital role in ensuring a connection between development strategy and real-world implementation. Third, relate to performance management. HR must be clear about development's place in the performance management process. HR professionals should differentiate between short-term plans for projects, long-term plans for the organization, career development plans for the employee, and skill building for immediate performance deficiencies. Each should be handled at the appropriate phase of the performance management process. Fourth, understand what the employee values. Employees often have an intense interest in their own development. Knowing what each employee values and how that relates to his or her development needs should greatly affect the type of development activities provided for the employee and, ultimately, for the success of such activities. Fifth, know the desired outcome. Have a clear understanding of exactly which skills will be enhanced by particular employee development initiatives. Key learning principles for employee training. First, learning is an active process. The majority of workplaces today expect their employees to learn by simply memorizing the concepts and data that is shared with them, irrespective of whether it is presented verbally or in black and white. Ulrich Bossert, the author of the book Learn Better, Mastering the Skills for Success in Life, Business, and School, says that this approach towards employee learning and training is totally ineffective. He and his fellow team members emphasize that learning is an active process, and the best way you can help the trainees learn is via engagement. An easy way this can be done is by using the retrieval method, where learners are asked to briefly explain and summarize the training's key takeaways. This can either be done verbally or in writing. Second, understanding the impact of past knowledge and experiences. Another learning principle in training and development is understanding the impact of past experiences. The way a person perceives anything that is shared with him largely depends on what they know and have experienced in the past. The twist here is that prior knowledge and past experience can be both a blessing and a curse. It can be a blessing because experience and knowledge make it easier for learners to quickly grasp concepts or information that is being shared. On the flip side, it is a curse because the same knowledge and experience can become a hurdle when they are learning and exploring new concepts. This is because learners tend to reject new concepts if they differ from what they have experienced before. In the latter case, learners often end up confused between what they learn and what they have experienced. They find themselves stuck between what is right and what is not and ultimately go off track. Third, learning does not mean bombarding a lot of information at once. This is a very important principle in training and development. A lot of trainers leave trainees frustrated by sharing a lot of information at once. This mistake not only disengages learners and leaves them discouraged, but also ends up wasting all the effort, money, and time invested in the training program. The part of our brain that focuses on short-term memory can rapidly get exhausted and fail to store any of the information that is shared if it is presented in large chunks. Therefore, to make the most of your investment and enable learners to learn, topics that are vast should be broken down into smaller subtopics for discussion. This is one reason why micro-learning has become a popular learning technique across the world. Fourth, learners always think they know more than they actually do. Trainers should always remember that learners like to believe they know a lot more than they really do, which is completely natural. As a trainer, you will often find out a couple of people in your advanced training sessions who lack basic knowledge. Letting such people enroll and attend training that is not suitable for them will waste your training budget in addition to keeping the deserving candidates deprived of the opportunity. That said, trainers must consider finding a way that allows them to shortlist the right candidates. This can be easily done by conducting mini quizzes or short interviews. Fifth, feedback is extremely important. Most learners find judging their current knowledge and abilities difficult. Similarly, they can come to the wrong conclusions while giving themselves feedback. This is where the role of trainers and educators comes in. They need to ensure that the learners are provided detailed but constructive feedback that is essential for their learning and development. Sixth, retention of what has been learned. The sixth learning principle on this list that encourages high-impact learning is focusing on the importance of activities that help learners to remember what they have learned. At most times, what we have learned gets forgotten if it's not revised, converted into an experience, or remembered via association with something else. This is a very typical problem that brings a lot of frustration to both trainers and learners. However, to tackle this issue, trainers can always include an activity in the training plan that helps the learners retain what they have learned. Alternatively, if the trainers happen to interact with learners on a daily basis, they should make it a point to remind them of the key takeaways time and again. More training sessions can be arranged on the same subject after a few months of the initial training to ensure that training objectives have been fully met. 7th, creating a non-toxic and relaxed learning environment. You can't expect a person to learn in an environment that is unsafe, toxic, and uncomfortable. Research proves that the environment where people learn has a direct impact on their minds, bodies, and their ability to learn. The best trainers are those who take this learning principle into account and ensure creating an environment that encourages learning. 8th, discussing the bigger picture. By bigger picture, we mean the ultimate goals and objectives that you are seeking to achieve by the end of a training program. Trainers should try to discuss these objectives in the very start so that the learners can learn in the right direction. Every learner attending a training session must be aware of what they are going to be taught, the ultimate goal of the training, and the practical application or importance of the lessons learned. 9th, focus on practical learning. Trainers should focus on practical learning by using scenarios. This is a learning principle that, when implemented efficiently, allows learners to better understand concepts that are shared with them. It creates a link between training topics and real-life scenarios. This way, learners not only learn quickly and easily but also retain shared information well. 10th, allow socializing. The final learning principle in training and development that you should remember is to allow socializing in training. This goes hand in hand with the learning principle number 7 on this list. Indeed, not everyone is a social butterfly. Some people are fond of socializing with like-minded people and seek opportunities to do so, while others are not. There will both introverts and extroverts in your training sessions. Regardless, it is a great idea to incorporate activities in training that allows socializing, as it makes the learning environment more relaxed, friendly, and comfortable. All of the above given learning principles are very helpful in designing training programs that are effective and successful. Approaches to employee development. First, training. This method includes developing employee skills through a combination of lectures, hands-on exercises, videos, podcasts, simulations, and individual, group-based assignments. It includes both formal, classroom-based, instructor-led e-learning courses and informal, watching YouTube videos, reviewing educational blogs and posts on peer group forums like LinkedIn or chat rooms, self-study, approaches to skills development. Each option will be specific to an organization's needs and the subject at hand. For example, a hands-on, instructor-led training may be the best option to teach a detailed process or trade, e.g., a complex manufacturing process or preparing a signature dish for a restaurant. These extremely specific tasks cannot be taught via YouTube or research, which may suffice for more general subjects such as building codes or IT support issues. Employees must actively undergo training, either paid for by themselves or by the organization, throughout their career to enhance skills they, in consultation with their managers, supervisors, deem necessary for the role they are performing. However, organizations must also actively support employee skills development for future roles, responsibilities that the company hopes to entrust these employees. Second, task or job rotations. Employees could volunteer to rotate roles with colleagues on a shift team to put some of those new skills into practice. Employers can also encourage job sharing as a method for employees who have indicated their desire to get practical experience to develop some additional skills. The goal is to rotate the tasks and roles to learn something new or have a chance to practice what has been learned. Stretch assignments. This method involves management working with employees to understand where they wish to improve and then finding assignments for employees to develop those skills. Typically, the assignments will push the boundaries of an employee's existing role, responsibility, to expand its scope to include additional skills needing development. Stretch assignments could either be horizontal, tasking an employee to use additional skills to do more work similar to, though not the same, their existing role, or vertical, extending the scope of an employee's role to cover downstream or upstream responsibilities. Third, coaching. When talking about various employee development methods and their benefits, we can't stress the importance of helping employees polish their skills through coaching. This method of skills development typically involves senior staffers working one-on-one with less experienced individuals. This can fast-track an employee's understanding of a variety of topics. But be mindful that this approach can be both time-consuming, taking up the assets of seasoned, valuable staff, and results in a clone-like knowledge of the subject, as opposed to an employee learning the subject his, her way or through input from a broad range of co-workers and mentors. Fourth, mentoring. This method involves senior leaders management taking junior staff under their wing to help develop important skills that the mentored individual might lack. The more formal mentoring programs are typically used for senior executive leadership roles, while less formal structures might be implemented amongst junior management as well. As with coaching, be mindful of the time asset and the even narrower funnel of a one-on-one teaching model. Fifth, workshops, committees, working groups. These are methods that give employees an opportunity to interact with peers, colleagues from within and external to the organization. The benefit here is rich access to similar colleagues, internal, and dissimilar colleagues, external. This broad range of input and knowledge can be useful in gaining new insights, troubleshooting, and opening up communication on best practices. This is ideal for communication skills and teamwork, but can also be applied to anything else. 6. Simulations. These are becoming very popular due to both how engaging and effective they have become. In its simplest form, a simulation could be role-playing a customer service interaction. For example, learning how to diffuse an irate and confrontational client in person, or responding to an emergency situation such as mock first aid scenarios. At its highest level, simulations can involve completely virtual worlds, such as fire rescue or flight training, where employees can learn the skills required in a non-consequential setting. This is extremely useful in taking conceptual or textbook knowledge and applying it to the real world, which gives the employee both the know-how as well as the exposure and comfortability in handling such tasks. 7. Conferences. Much like workshops and committees, conferences are a useful way to network and gain exposure to a vast knowledge base of both interdisciplinary and outside industries. Specific sessions are generally available to increase awareness and training of relevant topics, often in a pick-and-choose format that can be of interest, usefulness to particular subgroups within an organization. 8. On-the-job development. Employees who have attended some basic training on a technical skill, whether it be in operating a new machine or learning new financial analysis methods, will often find on-the-job development a great method to hone those skills. This is basically learning by doing, which is typically done right after the training. The main goal of on-the-job development is to provide everything to the employee for self-study while at work. Employees learn how to use something or apply the methods as they complete the assigned tasks. This is a very popular way to develop employees, as companies typically don't have the time to train every single employee on every single skill, especially if that skill does not require specific, advanced knowledge. 9. Self-study. This can be accomplished through different methods: reading, researching, taking classes, etc. outside of work hours. The subject doesn't always relate to the skills that an organization needs, but rather something new that they believe will improve their performance. While the time invested for self-study isn't directly compensated, if an employee purchased a course that will improve his performance, the company should compensate him by paying for that course. The benefit is that the employee decides what's of interest and pursues it independently. Conversely, it is often difficult to motivate employees to spend off-work time devoted to work-related endeavors. 10th. 360-degree performance review. This method involves getting feedback about an employee from a cross-section of peers, subordinates, supervisors, and external vendors, and then identifying skills development opportunities based on those inputs. 11th. Career planning. While this method is usually viewed as something that is employer-driven, where HR decides which employee should fill what role, it shouldn't be so. Employees can also suggest future, alternative career paths for themselves to their supervisors, managers, and initiate career planning discussions. Based on a business goals review and organizational workforce assessment, see Employee Development Plan, employers can identify existing skills that need to be enhanced across the organization, or prospective new skills that the business must acquire. Through discussions with management, individual employees should then analyze their own strengths and shortcomings, and volunteer to take on some of those roles. Individual career plans can then be mapped out, in consultation with HR, with specific skills development milestones identified for each role. Employee Development Plan Process. Employee development is an ongoing process which helps employees to enhance their skills and knowledge to contribute more effectively towards the organization. Remember, you are not paid for simply coming to office and leaving on time. You really need to perform exceptionally well to stand apart from the rest. It is essential for employees to upgrade their knowledge with time to survive the changing environment and fierce competition at the workplace. Employee development process begins from day one when an individual joins an organization. You really do not have to wait for annual appraisals to implement the employee development plan. Induction and orienting new employees are also effective ways of employee development. Understand why you need employee development plan. Employee development plans prepare an employee for his current as well as future assignments and make him loyal and dedicated towards the organization. An employee should feel comfortable even on her first day of work. Performance begins on the very first day an employee steps into an organization. Make sure induction programs are meaningful and not just a mere formality. Orientation programs must acquaint the employee with the policies and procedures, rules and regulations of the organization. Design key responsibility areas of an individual in lines with his educational qualification, background, past experience, specialization and areas of interest. Provide him manuals, brochures or employee handbooks which an individual can take back home for future reference. Team managers or reporting bosses ideally should spend some quality time with the new employee to orient him to the organization. Do not overload him with unnecessary information. Trust me, he will never come back. Job expectations must be communicated to the employees the very first day itself. Be open for any feedbacks or queries. Ask the new member to have lunch with his fellow workers. Let him be familiar with his team members. After all, he has to work with them. Managers ought to give regular feedbacks to employees. Performance appraisals or promotions should not come as a surprise to employees. Be very transparent with your employees. Give them a clear picture of their current performance and growth chart in the organization. There are two types of employee development plans. First, professional growth. Such employee development plans are created to help individuals in their career growth. In such a plan, a team manager sits with his team members and designs growth plans with specific deadlines as to when the development goals can be accomplished. It is essential to give deadlines to employees for them to take trainings and employee development activities seriously. Employees are encouraged to attend training sessions, seminars, conferences to acquire new skills and knowledge. Second, improvement. Managers design a performance improvement plan, also called as PIP, and create an action plan to help employees improve their performance. Employees are trained not only for their professional development but also for their personal growth. Initiatives are taken to improve behavioral skills, communication skills, interpersonal skills which would help them in the long run.